darkness, silence. Your phone's dead, and you just realized you lent out something you desperately need. In a blackout, that one mistake could cost you safety, comfort, maybe even something worse. Don't make that regret, and stick around because I'm going to reveal 13 everyday items you'll wish you never lent out before the lights go out. Hey everyone, I've been digging through energy reports, prepping communities, and recent 2025 data, and what I found is alarming. Experts warn that blackouts in the US are happening more often, lasting longer and hitting harder than before. According to the Department of Energy, total blackout hours could skyrocket up to 100 times higher by 2030 if the grid doesn't get serious upgrades. In this video, I'm going to break down the 13 everyday items most people casually lend out, but instantly regret when the grid fails. Some of these will surprise you, and a few are things you probably rely on every single day without even realizing how critical they become in a crisis. Trust me, you don't want to miss this, and I want to hear from you. Have you already noticed shortages, price hikes, or outages in your area? Drop your observations in the comments. I'll be reading them. Item 1. Portable power bank / battery pack. It's 9 p.m., the wind is howling, and the rain taps harder against the windows. The lights suddenly flicker, then shut off completely. You grab your phone, hoping to check the latest weather alert. The screen lights up, but your heart sinks. It's only at 10% battery. You swipe through your apps trying to refresh the updates, but then you remember. The one thing that could save you, your portable power bank, is sitting in someone else's bag because you lent it out. A favor that now feels like a disaster. In a blackout, the phone becomes more than just a gadget. It's your map, your flashlight, your emergency line. It tells you if the storm is moving closer or if evacuation is needed. Without a power bank, all of that disappears the moment your battery dies. Suddenly, you're cut off from family, cut off from news, and cut off from help. The silence in the room feels heavier when you realize there's no way to reach anyone. People often regret this exact situation. After many major outages, surveys show one of the top complaints isn't losing the fridge or even the heat, it's losing the ability to charge phones. Communication tools are what people miss first, and without backup power, frustration turns into fear quickly. Item 2. Flashlight / headlamp. It's late at night and the blackout drags on. The house is quiet except for the hum of the storm outside. You get up to grab something from the kitchen, and as you take your first step, your toe slams into the edge of the table. Pain shoots through your foot and you curse under your breath. You reach for a light, but then it hits you. You lent your only flashlight to a neighbor last week. Now you're left stumbling through shadows, hands stretched out, hoping you don't trip over something worse. A flashlight or headlamp might seem like a small, simple tool, but during a blackout, it becomes priceless. Candles can help, sure, but they don't light up hallways, staircases, or outdoor paths the way a focused beam can. When the power's out, the risk of falls, injuries, or even accidents multiplies. If you have kids or elderly family members at home, a flashlight isn't optional, it's essential. Here's something surprising. After almost every major outage, emergency services report a spike in minor injuries at home. Most of them, cuts, bruises, or falls caused by poor lighting, all of it avoidable with something as basic as a flashlight. Headlamps are even better, keeping your hands free for carrying supplies, cooking, or tending to someone in need. And here's the kicker. You thought being generous with your flashlight was no big deal. But wait until you're the one stuck lighting your way with the glow of a half-dead phone screen. And here's the ironic twist. You thought lending out your power bank was kind. But give it 2 hours into the blackout, when your only flashlight is running dim and suddenly kindness feels like the dumbest decision of the week. Item 3. Spare phone charger / car charger. The storm hasn't let up and your phone is down to 5%. You grab your portable power bank, but then you realize it's useless without the charging cable. You dig through drawers, pockets, bags, but nothing. Then it hits you. Last weekend you lent your extra charger to your cousin, who just needed it for a day. Now, in the middle of a blackout, you're staring at a dead phone and a power bank that might as well be a paperweight. A spare phone charger doesn't sound like a big deal until it's gone. During an outage, every percent of battery matters. Your phone is your link to weather alerts, emergency services, and family check-ins. Without the cord, none of that matters. It's like having gas in the tank but no keys for the car. And don't forget about the car itself. When the grid is down, your vehicle might be the only power source left. A simple car charger can turn your parked car into a lifeline. It's how you keep phones alive, radios charged, and even small devices powered up. Yet most people don't think twice before lending one out. Here's the funny part. When the lights are on, chargers feel like clutter. But when the lights are off, that cheap cord suddenly feels like gold. You thought being generous was harmless, but try explaining to your family why you can't charge a single device when the world outside has gone dark. Item 4, external battery backup for Wi-Fi router or mobile hotspot. The house is dark. Candles flicker, you sit there trying to refresh the news on your phone, it loads, and then stalls. Why? Your Wi-Fi router just went out with the blackout. You think, no big deal, I've got mobile data. But guess what? Everyone in the neighborhood is doing the same thing. Towers are overloaded, connections crawl or drop completely. Now imagine if you had kept that little battery backup for your Wi-Fi router instead of lending it out to a neighbor who promised to return it tomorrow. With a router backup, your internet could still be running for hours, maybe even the entire night. You'd get live updates, track the storm, or message loved ones when cell service becomes unreliable. Without it, you're left with silence and the uneasy feeling that you're cut off from the world. Why is this so critical? In today's world, information is survival. During power outages, people don't just lose lights, they lose access to news, maps, even medical guidance. A Wi-Fi backup can keep your household connected when the rest of the street is blind. Many emergency experts note that communication tools often fail before food runs out or generators stop. And here's a twist you might not know. Some Wi-Fi battery backups are so small and cheap, they barely take up more space than a paperback book. Yet when the grid crashes, they can feel priceless. You thought lending it out was being generous? Wait until your teenager stares at you like it's the end of civilization because the internet's gone. Suddenly, that little box you loaned away feels like the crown jewel of survival gear. Item 5, flashlights and extra batteries. It's midnight, the storm outside is howling, and the power has been gone for hours. You reach for the flashlight you always keep in the kitchen drawer. Click, nothing, dead batteries. Then you remember you lent the spare flashlight to a neighbor last week because they'd only need it for one night. Now you're fumbling around in the dark, bumping into furniture, praying you don't step on that one Lego piece that somehow always ends up on the floor. This isn't just about convenience. In a blackout, light is safety. Without it, every shadow feels like a hazard. Cooking becomes dangerous, moving around your house feels risky, and if you have kids, their fear multiplies in the pitch black. A working flashlight instantly changes that. It gives you control, security, and peace of mind. Here's the part most people overlook. Extra batteries. A flashlight without spare batteries is like a car without gas. FEMA even lists flashlights and backup batteries as essentials in every emergency supply kit. And during long outages, batteries are often the first things to sell out in local stores. Prices spike, shelves empty, and you're left with nothing but candle wax and frustration. Surprisingly, a survey after the Texas blackout of 2021 showed that one of the most common regrets wasn't running out of food, it was not having enough light sources once night fell. People underestimated how crippling complete darkness can be. And yes, let's be honest, lending your flashlight might feel like being a good neighbor, but when the second hour of darkness hits, you'll be stuck holding your phone with 2% battery, pretending its screen glow counts as light. Spoiler, it doesn't. Item 6, portable stove or camp stove. Picture this. The power has been out all day. The fridge is slowly warming, the microwave is useless, and your electric stove? Just a silent hunk of metal. Dinner time comes and suddenly you realize you lent out that small camp stove to a buddy last summer for their weekend camping trip. They never returned it. Now you're staring at cans of soup, pasta, or rice with no way to cook them. In a blackout, food becomes a real challenge. Sure, cold snacks work for a while, but eventually you'll need a hot meal. A portable stove isn't just about comfort, it's survival. It lets you boil water to make it safe to drink, heat canned goods, or even cook fresh food before it spoils. Without it, you're stuck eating raw, dry, or unsafe meals. That might sound minor until you've gone 24 hours on granola bars and stress. Here's something most people don't realize. During long outages, camp stoves and fuel vanish from store shelves almost instantly. After Hurricane Ida, some regions reported weeks-long shortages of propane canisters. Prices shot up and people were left scrambling. A $30 stove suddenly felt worth its weight in gold. And the regret? Oh, it stings. Borrowing out your stove before a blackout is like giving away your kitchen. Once the power goes out, that little burner becomes the heart of your household. It can mean hot coffee in the morning, warm meals for kids, and safe drinking water when bottled supplies run dry. You thought lending it was just being helpful? Wait until you're gnawing on cold beans straight from the can while your friend is making chili by candlelight. That's a regret you'll feel in every bite. Item 7, cash and small bills. The blackout hits on a Friday evening. By Saturday morning, stores in your area finally open their doors, but the card machines are dead. No debit, no credit, no Apple Pay. Just handwritten receipts and the words you never want to hear in a crisis. Cash only. You dig into your wallet and realize you don't have any. Why? Because a few weeks ago you lent $60 in small bills to a cousin who promised to pay you back next time. Now, in the middle of the blackout, you're standing at the counter, staring at a jug of water and a loaf of bread you can't buy. The clerk shrugs. No cash, no sale. This isn't just a hypothetical. After major U.S. outages, like the Northeast Blackout of 2003 and Texas in 2021, ATMs were useless within hours. Either they ran out of cash or simply had no power to function. Banks closed, card readers froze, and suddenly those crumpled 20s became the most powerful tool you could carry. Why small bills? Because in a crisis, nobody's giving you change for a $100 bill. If you try to hand over a large bill for a $3 bottle of water, chances are you'll lose the rest of that money. But a few ones, fives, and tens, that keeps you flexible, ready to trade or buy exactly what you need without waste. And here's the kicker. FEMA and countless prepper experts emphasize that cash is one of the top 5 essentials for emergency kits, yet it's the one people underestimate most. Everyone assumes cards will work until they don't. So, was lending out that cash really generosity, or was it giving away your lifeline? During a blackout, when your neighbor's munching on fresh takeout because they had $20 in cash and you're stuck with dry crackers, the answer becomes painfully clear. You thought paper money was old-fashioned. Wait until you learn it's the only currency that works when the lights go out. Item 8. Water jugs and containers. The power's been out for 24 hours. At first, it's just an inconvenience. No lights, no Wi-Fi, no coffee maker, but then you turn on the tap. A weak trickle comes out, and then nothing. The water system has gone down with the blackout. You rush to your storage only to realize you lent out your big water jugs last month for a family barbecue. They never made their way back. Now you're staring at an empty sink, thirsty, with no way to store or transport safe drinking water, bottled water. The shelves at the store were cleared within the first 3 hours of the outage. What's left is overpriced, and only for those with cash in hand. Suddenly, those simple plastic containers you gave away feel like the most valuable thing you ever owned. Here's the harsh truth. Humans can survive weeks without food, but only about 3 days without water. And during extended outages, city pumps and filtration systems often fail because they rely on electricity. The American Red Cross specifically recommends 1 gallon of water per person per day with at least a 3-day supply. That's not luxury, that's survival math. What most people don't realize is how fast clean water becomes a black market item in emergencies. After Hurricane Katrina, there were countless stories of people trading food, batteries, even cash, just for a jug of clean water. Containers are just as critical as the water itself. Without them, you can't collect rainwater, store what you boil, or keep what FEMA might hand out at relief stations. And here's the part that stings. You thought lending those containers was harmless, but when your neighbor is sipping safely from the very jug you loaned them, while you're rationing the last drops in your fridge, that small favor becomes a life lesson. Because in a blackout, water isn't just water. It's the difference between staying calm and spiraling into desperation. Item 9. Propane tanks and fuel canisters. The sun has set, the blackout stretches into its second night, and the house is colder than you expected. You shuffle out to the garage, determined to fire up the camp stove or maybe even that little patio heater. You grab the hose, twist the knob, and then it hits you. Your propane tank is gone. Propane and fuel canisters are the unsung heroes of any emergency. They power camp stoves, heaters, lanterns, and even some small generators. In other words, they turn a powerless home into one where you can still eat, stay warm, and see more than 2 feet in front of you. Without them, everything grinds to a halt. Here's what people don't often realize. Propane shortages are real, and they spike fast during crises. After the Texas freeze in 2021, propane sales jumped over 60% in just 2 days. Shelves emptied, delivery trucks were delayed, and desperate families paid double or even triple the normal price just to cook a hot meal. And those tiny 1-pound green fuel canisters, they were gone within hours. The danger isn't just the cold or hunger, it's the helplessness. Imagine having all the right gear, but no fuel to run it. It's like owning a car with no gas station for 100 miles. And here's the kicker. Propane doesn't spoil. A tank can sit for years and still be ready when you need it. So lending it out feels safe until the moment you need it most. You thought you were just being generous with that cookout loan, but when your neighbor's frying eggs on the stove, you fueled and you're staring at another cold sandwich in the dark. That's when regret burns hotter than the flame you don't have. Item 10. First aid kit and medical supplies. It's day 3 of the blackout. Stress is high, sleep is low, and the house feels like a minefield in the dark. Then it happens. You trip over a chair, cut your leg on the corner, and blood starts flowing. No big deal, right? Just grab the first aid kit, except you don't have it. You lent it to your coworker last month for their weekend hiking trip. They promised to return it. They never did. Now you're standing in the bathroom with a torn dish towel pressed against the wound, realizing you've got no antiseptic, no bandage, no pain relievers. A minor cut suddenly feels like a serious threat, and in a blackout when hospitals are overrun and pharmacies close early or stop taking cards, you quickly learn that a simple medical kit isn't optional. It's survival. Here's the reality. During disasters, ER visits spike. Not because of dramatic accidents, but because of small injuries that spiral, cuts that get infected, fevers with no meds, or asthma attacks without inhalers. After Hurricane Sandy, pharmacies across New York ran out of essentials within 2 days. In Puerto Rico, after Maria, painkillers and antibiotics were nearly impossible to find for weeks, and it's not just about trauma. Think about kids with allergies, relatives with blood pressure meds, or even just aspirin for a pounding headache. Without a stocked kit, you're gambling with your health in a moment when doctors and supplies are stretched thin. The regret hits hard when you realize the first aid kit you thought was just a box of Band-Aids and stuff was actually your lifeline. You thought lending it out was a harmless favor. But when your neighbor has your kit neatly tucked under their bed and you're wrapping a wound with duct tape, the lesson comes sharp and fast. In the blackout, small injuries don't wait for the power to come back on. They demand answers now, and without your kit, you're left in the dark. Item 11. Gasoline and fuel storage. The blackout stretches into its 4th day. Your generator sits ready, your car is parked outside, and you think, at least I can still get around. You turn the key, the engine coughs, sputters, and dies. Tank's empty. No problem, you think, I'll just head to the gas station. But when you get there, the pumps are dark. No power means no fuel, and the few stations running on backup generators, they've got lines wrapping around the block and cash-only signs taped to the glass. That's when it hits you. You gave away that spare gas can last summer for your cousin's lawnmower. Now, in the middle of a blackout, you're stranded. Gasoline is more than just car fuel during a crisis. It powers generators, chainsaws for clearing fallen trees, and even some portable heaters. Without it, mobility and comfort vanish fast. Imagine needing to drive to a hospital, only to realize you don't have enough fuel to get there. It's not dramatic, it's real. During the 2003 Northeast blackout, New York saw massive fuel shortages within hours. And after Hurricane Katrina, desperate families paid triple the normal price just to fill up half a tank. The scary part, gas isn't just scarce in a blackout, it disappears instantly. Fuel trucks can't deliver if roads are blocked. Stations can't pump without power. Those who planned ahead with filled cans suddenly become the lucky few. And here's the irony. Gasoline has a shelf life, but with stabilizers, it can last over a year. Keeping just a couple of 5-gallon cans filled could mean running your generator for days or making that critical drive to safety. You thought lending out that spare can was no big deal. But when your neighbor's lights are humming on generator power and your house sits dark and silent, that regret feels heavier than any empty tank. Item 12. Warm blankets and sleeping bags. The power's out, the temperature is dropping, and the hum of the furnace is just a memory. At first you think, no problem, I'll just layer up. But as the hours pass, the cold seeps in. It creeps under doors, through windows, into your bones. You finally head to the closet to grab that heavy blanket, only to remember you lent it out during your niece's last sleepover. The other two? Loaned to a neighbor for their camping trip. Now, in the middle of a blackout, you're shivering under a thin sheet, wondering how long you can tough it out. Cold is more dangerous than people realize. Hypothermia doesn't just happen on snowy mountaintops, it can creep into your living room when the heat goes out. After the Texas freeze of 2021, dozens of families reported that warm blankets and sleeping bags were the single most valuable items in their homes. They weren't luxuries, they were lifesavers. The math is simple: no heat, no power, no fuel, and suddenly blankets are currency. A well-insulated sleeping bag rated for cold weather can keep someone alive when indoor temps drop below freezing. Even FEMA stresses having extra warm layers in every household emergency kit. But here's the twist. In a crisis, it's not just you. If you've got kids, elderly relatives, or even pets, warmth becomes non-negotiable. And if you lent out half your stockpile, you'll feel that mistake the moment you see their teeth chattering in the dark. Because when the power grid collapses, comfort isn't about luxury anymore, it's about survival. And warmth is survival. Item 13. Non-perishable food and emergency snacks. The blackout drags into its 5th day. The fridge is useless, the freezer a puddle of melting regret. At first you manage with sandwiches and whatever snacks you had lying around, but soon the bread is stale, the milk is spoiled, and the produce is gone. Hunger sets in, you open the pantry, already knowing the answer, empty. Those extra cans of soup and packs of granola bars you stocked last winter, gone. Lent them to a friend during their road trip emergency. They promised to replace them. they never did. Now you're staring at bare shelves while your stomach growls, and the local store is chaos. The aisles are stripped clean, shelves empty, and what's left is either overpriced or fought over. In every major U.S. outage, from Hurricane Sandy to the Texas freeze, the first items to vanish were bottled water, bread, and canned food. Supply trucks can't restock if roads are blocked or if fuel stations are closed. That means whatever you have at home is all you get. Non-perishables like canned beans, peanut butter, pasta, rice, or protein bars aren't just prepper food. They're lifelines. They last for months or years, they don't need refrigeration, and they can keep you going when fresh food is impossible to find. Even FEMA recommends at least a 3-day supply for every person in the household. But ask anyone who lived through a long blackout. They'll tell you 3 days runs out fast. And here's the kicker. Hunger doesn't just make you uncomfortable, it makes you weak, irritable, unable to think clearly. It turns a stressful situation into a dangerous one. You thought lending out a few cans or snack packs was no big deal. But when your neighbor's kid is happily munching on your granola bars while you're rationing crackers in the dark, that small favor feels like the biggest mistake. Because in a blackout, food isn't just fuel, it's power, comfort, and survival. So there you have it. 13 everyday items you'll seriously regret lending out before the blackout. At first, each one feels small. A power bank, a blanket, a few cans of food. But when the lights go out, those small things turn into survival tools. And the worst part, you usually don't realize it until it's too late. Here's the bottom line. Protecting your essentials isn't selfish, it's smart. Because once the grid goes down, the difference between comfort and chaos might come down to whether or not you held on to these 13 items. Now, I want to hear from you. Maybe you couldn't buy food because the card machines were down. Drop your story in the comments. I'll be reading them, and your experience could help someone else prepare. And if this video got you thinking, do me a favor, hit that like button so more people can see it. Subscribe if you want more survival tips, prepper hacks, and real-world breakdowns of what's happening with our fragile power grid. And don't forget to tap the notification bell, because trust me, the next video could be the one that saves you from the worst-case scenario. Stay safe, stay prepared, and whatever you do, don't lend out your survival essentials. You'll regret it when the lights go out.